The Tallarico Group has helped CEOs grow their sales and grow their leaders for over a decade. Now, founder and president Bill Tallarico brings you Total Growth, a podcast that explores the challenges of selling, leading, and building great relationships.
Welcome back to the Total Growth Podcast. Normally in our time together, we're talking about how we can grow top-line revenue, grow our leaders, grow our relationships, and it's all about growth. And today should maybe be called the Total Shrink Podcast because I'm joined by Jack and Jason Howard, who are cost reduction specialists, and they are with JDHS Solution Group. And their expertise is working with organizations, both small, medium, and large, on how to capture savings in their supply chain, better manage their supply chain, and ultimately increase profitability. So, Jack and Jason, welcome to Total Growth.
Bill, we appreciate you taking the all the time to invite us to participate in this conversation, and it's an opportunity where we can chat a little bit, not just about top line growth. We're continually looking at ways that we can help reduce the costs that our clients are paying for the goods and services that they buy. And on your end of the spectrum, you're working with clients where they can secure their installed base, expand the base with existing and new customers, modify services to fit this new reality. And doing that, along with taking a look at what your supply chain is costing you, is really a double effort that as we come out of this COVID-19 environment, we can do some really fantastic things for clients.
Yeah, so Jack, tell me a little bit about how you're doing that. You know, as we're all living through COVID and the new reality it presents. We've talked over the past few weeks about how sales teams are adjusting and trying to capture new clients in this new world. Tell us a little bit about how you guys are helping your clients manage their vendors through this process.
We're doing it remotely. Very much whether we're doing Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or if they have their own internal video conferencing system, whatever it may be, we're guiding them through a process where we begin by looking at their major strategic vendors. We look at the way that they do business today, and we look to say, are your requirements going to change? Do we need to do anything contractually? Are the ways that you're monitoring from a performance and operational standpoint consistent, or do we need to make modifications there? Figure out what are you doing that makes sense, doesn't make sense, and how do we bring the vendors back into the fold, discuss this with them, and see what they're finding is working well with the balance of their customer base. So make it a mutual effort between the parties to make sure that the goods and the services that are being sold to our clients continues to make sense.
One of the things you guys have always done well in our time together and our experiences together is you're able to find mutual value in the supply chain versus just having confrontational negotiations. So, you know, Jason, as you look at some of the things you're doing now in this new world and your vendor evaluation program that you've launched over the past couple of weeks, tell me about the companies that are benefiting from this and how they're doing that.
You know, you hit the nail on the head with the having to diffuse the confrontational environment. You know, Jack and I were talking at the beginning of this pandemic about how we might be able to benefit our customers, current as well as prospective. And what we realized is that there's an interesting dynamic that has been formed where the client or the customer might feel as though they have a lot of leverage to beat up on some of their suppliers and vendors, but they don't want to. They don't want to be looked at as opportunists or capitalizing on a tragedy. They don't want to be bullies. So, companies could benefit from what Jack and I offer by bringing us in to basically allow all the parties to get onto the same page. It's a way to diffuse the situation where your goals are more aligned than you possibly realize. It isn't the large company trying to take advantage of the small supplier. It's you're all looking for stability, the ability to forecast, to know that you're both going to be okay. I can give two kind of quick examples. One is IT needs. We've got clients where their workforce is now suddenly forced to work at home, work remotely. So what sort of adjustments need to be made on the IT side to accommodate that?
That's actually
and
a
a
great
direct
point
correlation off of that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's a great point, because these organizations are not built for the way the workforce is working today, right? So many organizations have exactly the IT needs they need for supporting their team when they're in the office and in a collaborative, on-site environment. And now that we move them into essentially restructuring the organization overnight, that creates additional IT needs that people either weren't prepared for or maybe didn't have the planning for, especially with many medium-sized businesses, right, with some long-term contingency plan or a disaster plan.
Absolutely. And, if you're leasing your office space, you might realize even after these restrictions are lifted that, hey, it works better having all of these people work remotely. So how can you go and talk to the landlord or the owner of the building to restructure something that'll make more sense if you're going to have a third of the actual bodies showing up on a daily basis? Mm-hmm. I'm sure that you're seeing instances like that with some of your customer base. Their needs are changing, and they have a dilemma of how do they kind of be proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. Many of our clients are actually embracing this and saying, boy, we don't need as much space as we have, and we're going to be looking at some of the office leases as they come up. And some of the places that's most common are with organizations that have multi-locations with satellite offices. And now all of a sudden they're saying, these satellite offices, do we really need them? And they're looking at the longer term leases, the ones that are coming due in 2 to 5 years, and already starting to think about how they may or may not need to renegotiate those agreements. I think some of the more forward-thinking ones are thinking about how do we maybe reprioritize or reallocate that space. So
100%.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier about specialists like you guys and how you're able to help your clients with some of these contract renegotiations, or at least these contract discussions, right, that allow you to find some mutual benefit for the vendor and the organization. Why do you think, Jason, you guys are able to have such success at this? And, what are some of the things that maybe get in the way of the organizations just doing them on their own?
You're absolutely right that these organizations could do it on their own. This is something that's not new to Jack and I. We've experienced this since the beginning of our business. They can do it on their own, but the question is, will they? So what Jack and I often are is we're an enabler. We're a triggering event. And once we're able to kind of reveal that there is this opportunity, we're able to bring a valuable perspective from an outsider's point of view.
That fresh set of eyes is always so important with everything. I think our clients that we work with, both yours and ours, they do what they do really well. They're experts at their business. And then when they get into some of the things like this, like you said, they may not do it. Part of it is just time. From a sales perspective, we always talk with clients and they're always saying, I don't understand why somebody went cold, or, I send out this note and I don't understand why they're getting back to me. Well, the reality is it's because they're busy running their business, right? And so many of our clients are in the business and running the business, especially in these chaotic times where things are coming at us fast and furious and people are dealing with things that there is no manual or there is no playbook for. It's difficult to find and get to these other things that are important, but maybe not urgent. And that's where I think leveraging the expertise and experience of good folks like you can help. And through these processes, Jason, as you guys have gone through this, What's been some of the experiences of the vendors that you've seen, and typically how do vendors react to these changes, especially if it's in midterm of an agreement?
Sure. So, a lot of things are going to come out in the wash. So when you have an opportunity like this to do a top to bottom evaluation of all your key suppliers, you're going to be looking at what's working well and what could be improved on a vendor to vendor basis. And the truth of the matter is the good vendors out there are going to absolutely welcome it. It's an opportunity for them to increase their bond and their relationship and their business partnership with that customer. They're going to get the benefits of that long-term stability. And the bad vendors are going to be scared, quite honestly. It might come out that, hey, this customer might not need to use us the same way, or they might not need to use us at all. Really what it is overall is it's a great opportunity for the buyer and the seller to get in sync.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your reactions, the reactions that you referenced there, it's funny how I was talking with my coach a couple weeks ago and talking about the effects of these changing times. And she was telling me about one business owner who all of the people who called him and said, hey, we're having some issues and our revenues are cut and we're not sure what next month's going to look like, and we need to either cut back on what we've been buying or ask if we could pause our agreement. He reacted from a place of fear, and he reacted very negatively. And he said, hey, I need to live too, and I have a business I'm supporting, and if you can't pay, we can't help you. And he's not a bad guy. I think it just comes from that place of fear and the unknown that he pushed back. And you contrast that with some other folks, some good folks we work with, and some of the experiences we've had is where clients call out of fear and they say, Bill, I don't know what next month's going to look like. Or, they've worked with clients of ours who have fielded those phone calls from their clients saying, we're scared, we're not sure if we could pay next month. The folks that have leaned in those times and said, hey, we get it, we're still going to help you. We're still going to honor the service of our agreement, or don't worry, we're happy to pause invoicing for a month or two or whatever it takes. Their relational capital is growing exponentially with their clients. And their vendor, as a vendor, if you will, their clients are seeing them more as partners than vendors, versus the ones that lean in and they're like, well, if you can't help me, I can't help you, and we're out, right? And that's maybe the bad vendors, if you will, the bad suppliers, who probably have some underlying emotional issues and some underlying business problems that I think are being exasperated or really having some light shine upon them in these times. Who are the folks that should be thinking about this? If you could think of, some of the clients that might be listening, some of the companies out there that might be listening today, and they say, is that me? I'm either too small, or, I don't have enough complexity, or whatever it might be. What's a profile of somebody who should be thinking about using this time to go back and not renegotiate essentially with their vendor base, but reestablish some mutual benefits with their vendor base, and look at some of their strategic partners and actually help them become strategic versus just vendors?
Well, it can universally benefit all businesses. It's not industry specific. If you're buying goods and services today to conduct your business, this can help. Doesn't matter if you're in financial services, whether you're a bank or an insurance company. Manufacturers are going to have their unique set of circumstances. Let's say that they will lean. Let's say that they want to get away from buying from China, buy it all in North America, or just the U.S. Distributors that gained a reputation with just-in-time, where now they may not be able to do just-in-time because their supply chain has been altered. Public utilities. Retail is certainly changing. Look how all of us have experienced as restaurants are starting to reopen, whether you're going to dine in, do takeout. How are they going to continue to run their business? Professional services. Law firms are an example. Jason's example earlier about, are they going to need all the office space that they have in the dozen or more cities that they're operating in. How much more collaboration can they do with a Microsoft team meeting than the way they have in the past? Academic institutions, many don't know if they're going to open in the fall, whether it's all going to be, remote learning. What happens to their agreements? There isn't a business out there, if they're buying anything from vendors, shouldn't be looking at those relationships and trying to figure out, is it the correct relationship for today? It may have been in January, but does it still work today?
Yeah, it's amazing how things have changed in such a short period of time. And Jack, what I hear you saying is anybody that has a supply chain, and I think smaller and medium-sized organizations might not always think of themselves as having supply chains, but we do, right? If you're leasing office space, if you're leasing equipment, if you have any type of outsourced service that's an outsourced professional service or delivery service, these are all things that right now is a great time to re-examine so that we can right-size them, not, as Jason said earlier, use as an opportune time to hurt others, right? So how do we use these times to try to right-size the relationships and get them perfected, if you will, for the new reality we have of our new supply chain versus the supply chain of yesteryear, which might have been January or February. But that's an old reality that I think we all can agree isn't going to become our new reality for any time soon.
Yeah, we're prepared for dramatic changes in the marketplace. I think a lot of things that are going to go on are going to be transformational, and you can't necessarily predict. So you got to align yourself with the right set of vendors to be able to deliver that new set of services to your customer base. If your business and our business, Bill, how we deliver our services may very well change. We've been very used to getting on a plane. Do we do it as much?
Right. And I think not only the services, but this is a great time to re-examine some of the terms and conditions. And I'm sure you guys are looking at how do we make those flexible to manage now and have good terms for not just the buyer or your client, but also for those vendors. And
Yes.
It's pretty fascinating what we're living through, and I appreciate you guys coming on, taking some time to share with our listeners some of the things they might want to be thinking about. So often, I think people are in these conversations thinking about how do I maintain revenue, how do I get back or maintain what I had, and I think that we all know that in many cases, if you have a 20% profit margin, right, and you can identify $1 in savings, that equates to pretty significant number in revenue, right? What would that be? To save $1, put $1 on the bottom line through savings.
We're from 6 to 10x in revenue.
Yeah, which, so it's a lot easier in these times of seeing everybody shrink to try to put an extra dollar on the bottom line through savings than it is to go and try to find, what would say $1 million on the top line in revenue. Right. So I appreciate you guys sharing some of that with our listeners today. For those of you listening, we'll be sure to include a link on our website to JDH Solutions Group. Both Jack and Jason Howard, who have been doing this for quite some time. One of them's been doing a lot longer than the other one. That's the old guy, Jack, along with his son, Jason. So guys, as always, it's been a pleasure being with you. We thank you so much. And to our listeners, good luck. And getting through these times, be intentional about what you do, and this is a great place to maybe start and being intentional about how we focus on our bottom line and how we find some additional profit in these difficult times and how we build some strong relational capital with those people that are so critical to us in our supply base. So everyone, take care, God bless, and thanks for listening in.